Everybody's got their favorite players and agendas. So we're going to talk about what our islands are for what players' islands we inhabit. We're going to talk about what's the rotation fully healthy going to look like, because it can cause some tension. And I want to talk to Ryan a little bit about lessons we learned from last year for the Nuggets and why they got to chill out after All-Star. All that and more on Locked On Nuggets.
You are Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Nuggets, your daily Denver Nuggets podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for joining us and making us part of your day, being an everydayer, hanging out with us Monday through Friday, along with all of our bonus episodes after each Nuggets game. Appreciate you guys being along for the ride. My name is Matt Moore. I'm joined by Ryan Blackburn of Mile High Sports and the Pick, Axe, and Roll podcast. On today's show, we're going to talk about the dangers of the post-All-Star stretch, because I don't want to it's not a victory lap. I just kind of really want to emphasize the importance for Denver of managing that part of the schedule relative to last season. We're going to talk about what's the rotation going to be like fully healthy, because Ryan is the king of Nuggets rotations. But also, we had a very lengthy discussion with Bennett Durando last night about what the rotation kind of and what the starters should be and everything else. And there's a lot of tricky questions, I think, when this team is fully healthy now that they've started to play the way that they have. But we start, Ryan, with this question. DMVR does it all the time about the islands that they're on.
Oh yeah.
And we're just gonna steal it. We're just gonna outright steal it. So
it's a good concept. It's really good.
Mahrez can come catch these hands if he wants. I'm kidding, by the way. Everyone just
I threw him up. Everyone
thinks that people genuinely I text Ryan and Swipa and Adam all the time. We are I'm a supportive, loving person. Just because I antagonize on the show, it is not actually real life.
We all really like each other. It genuinely like each other a lot.
Yeah, but because I have so much respect for DMVR and the great empire that they've built, I'm going to steal all their stuff, and we're going to start by doing that with the islands. Ryan, you said that you usually are on the young guy islands. This team has been a little bit tougher for you. There's a lot of players. I'm surprised because a lot of the younger guys, you have specific nitpicks and issues with their play. But you did tell me before the show there is one young player that you've decided you want to inhabit the island of.
Yeah. So before I get into that, I want to address this first. I've been a Jamal Murray guy for a long time. I am I want good things for him. I want good things for the team going forward. I think it's important to continue to have that. Jamal's gotten paid. Jamal's gotten everything in his career that he has set out for. And he should continue to set the bar high. I'm shifting away from that island. I was staunchly and at one point solo on that island for a long period of my career. And now that he has established himself, I'm kind of shifting away from that focus. It's not to do with him. It's not to do with anything else. It's more just this is where the Nuggets are at. My guy is Christian Braun. Christian Braun, I think, is somebody who I caped for in this past offseason and said, I think the Nuggets are going to be fine in their starting unit. I think that Christian Braun is a really good player. He's going to figure it out next to Nikola Jokic. Look at the numbers when he plays next to Nikola Jokic based off of the first 2 years of his career. And look at what guys generally do when they go from first year to second year to third year and kind of progressing, and especially guys like him who have been in positions where he's been in a very high leverage environments his entire time in the NBA and in college as well. So he's a guy that I'm sticking the flag on. I'm going to say Christian Braun, that is the island that I am going to reside on for the rest of this year. I think he should start for the rest of the season. We'll probably get to that in a little bit. But I think that he is in line for a fantastic career. As you have talked about, he's going to be at least a 12-year player. That is somebody that I can get behind.
Yeah. And I think, having a guy doesn't deter you from being able to talk about things honestly and objectively. And sure, everybody's got lines between, and Ryan's a part of the show in part because he is such a Nuggets fan. That's one of the things I really wanted to make sure that we still had when Adam left. And Christian, I've been focused on trying to point out what they're missing defensively. And there are certain things though where it's like, it's not. Christian does so much awesome stuff, and I'm gonna have some stuff on this and a thing on Dig tomorrow. I finally have it done. About how good Christian's finishing has been, and about like how he has done this, and all the good things about it. And he's just been so incredible offensively. He's been so much better offensively than I thought. Not that he could be, that he would be this year. I didn't think he'd be this good this quick, and so he's been really great. His defensive issues are really not his fault. Like, they're not any sort of like, oh, Christian's not a great. There's been kind of the idea that Christian's not been all that good defensively, and I think it's more that, look, it's going to take him time to learn how to be a great defender over screens. And me talking about that problem doesn't mean that that's a fault with Christian Braun, or that Christian Braun is a weak spot there. You can't ask defenders to guard everybody. Jaden McDaniels is a pest, and he's really good. He's excellent navigating screens. You know where he sucks? He sucks when he's put in isolation versus bigger players, which is why Luka Doncic flambéed him in the Western Conference Finals. Yeah. Chris Dunn, phenomenal on-ball defender, navigates screens well, is really, really kind of physical. Dunn can get caught off ball. Like, if you run him off of multiple screens, he's always he will cheat a little bit. So there are these things that you can do to pretty much every defender. I think Christian's had an absolutely phenomenal season.
It's been tremendous, man. It's fun to watch him, and the way that he's embraced this moment, for sure. Like, there's been a lot of criticism, of course, that's been thrown his way. There's a lot of pressure that comes with being the guy who replaces the member of the starting lineup that left. And so I think he's just handled that extremely well, just with about as a mature of an approach and professional of an approach, and also just bringing the energy on a consistent basis. It's been awesome.
He's an incredible pro. Again, he's going to play 12 years in this league and make tens to hundreds of millions of dollars. So I'm always going to be an AG guy, just because Aaron was a player. I was talking to somebody about this tonight, that Aaron could have gone to Houston. So Houston, that was kind of the idea, was if he didn't get traded the year that the Nuggets traded for him, he was going to leave in free agency and sign a multi-year extension with, he's either getting probably signed and traded or traded. I forget where his contract was. He's going to wind up in Houston, and he was going to like sign for $200 million or whatever, $150 million at the time. Now it'd be like $250. God, the money's out of control. Like, he was going to sign for that, and like, that's who he would have been. And he would have been like the sub all-star best player on a bad team. And instead he chose to come to Denver, and he chose to embrace this, and he's gotten paid and won a championship and plays winning basketball. Like, Aaron Gordon is about the right things.
Yeah.
He's just about the right things. And he does all that while, he's on the cover of, I forget if it was GQ or Esquire, one of them. And he's on the cover of Mile High Sports Magazine. And like, there's like, Aaron is, and they call him Mr. Nugget, right? I think that I'm always going to kind of be that way. But I will say, doing the clips that I've done, I love Julian Strother's game.
You do.
It's so much better on tape than it stands out when watching a game, either in person or on TV. He's got so much shake to his game. He's got so many more reads than I think people realize. He's got such ability. He's a 3-level scorer. And if you don't believe me, just say that he's not, like Ryan did last night, and find out how many layups he can make in a row. I don't think Julian Strother's an all-star. I'm not sure Julian Strother's going to be a starter in this league. But I do think that Julian Strother can be a very good NBA player. And I think that his offensive game is an awesome watch if you sit down and watch it.
Oh, yeah. I remember comparing him to Terrence Ross on draft night. That kind of stuck with me over the course of the last year, just with the way that he kind of went into his career, kind of was a little bit of a gunner. He's kind of rung that back in a little bit. And especially at the beginning of the season, he was making a very conscious effort to take good shots. And the coaching staff actually had to coax it back out of him. Michael Malone was talking about it and saying, hey, we want you to take even more shots, my guy. Like, let's let it fly and continue to do those things and be aggressive and be who we need you to be, and who's going to, like, what you're going to be in this league for a long time. I think he's probably going to be, if not a 6th man of the year caliber scorer, I think there is a world where he is a 3rd, 4th, or 5th starter on a team. How good that team is, I don't know. But I think that if a team has good insulation and good guard defense and wing defense that can protect him a little bit, I don't think there's any reason why he can't be a starter in this league with the diversity of his game and how it's going to continue to evolve. So I'm with you, man. Like, he has really turned a corner this season. It's been very impressive.
On the other side, the Nuggets are probably going to be back to full strength after the All-Star break. If that's the case, who starts? Who goes to the bench? How deep do they go? What's the rotation? We'll try and answer some very difficult questions about what we think will happen and what should happen up next on Locked On Nuggets. After the holiday hustle, there's nothing like giving your home a little TLC. I always find that decluttering and refreshing my space helps me get back into the routine. I took a lot of time yesterday and I just took like 40 minutes and deep cleaned kitchen, dining room, living room, and it felt so much better. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give your space a new look to start this year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. You know, if you're looking at your furniture and if you're looking at all the different options, there's all these selections. Wayfair's huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit your style and budget. Your favorite part is going to be that the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. Wayfair's site was so easy to navigate, you're going to find everything you need in no time. There's something for every style and every home, no matter your space or budget. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair. Every style, every home. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets, thanks for joining us and making us part of your day. Go to lockedondaily.com and sign up for our free Locked On Nuggets newsletter. You get stuff like the six-pack after every single Nuggets game. You get dispatches from us about whatever is in our head. It's all free at lockedondaily.com. You can also go to youtube.com/lockedonnuggets and join the 8,975 people who are subscribed. 76. 70. I just changed while we were doing the show on Wednesday night. We are 24 away from 9. We are 1,024 away from our goal of 10,000 this season.
It's moved, man. Like, it's been really cool to see everybody's, I think, jumped on board with what we've been doing. We've been putting out so many different episodes, and I think the variability of the episodes that we've put out there has also been really cool. So if you guys are interested, make sure to subscribe. We're trying to make this even better as it continues to grow.
And we are next week. I want to get Swipa and Ryan and do a whole MVP episode. It's time. We got to talk about MVP next week. We'll do that.
We've held off for a while. I'll say that.
Yeah. So I'm doing awards and magic numbers. That's my entire function during the All-Star break.
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about the rotation. You and I and Bennett had this conversation yesterday, and no one really knows what's going to happen. You are kind of the belief that who is going to start after the All-Star break? If Russ is back and healthy and Peyton's back and healthy, who starts?
I think that they go back, like, just based off of how they've played lately. And like, you go on a 7-game win streak into the All-Star break. What we know about Michael Malone is he doesn't like to change things. He doesn't like to change things unless they are an issue. He's not going to bench Michael Porter. Like, he's not going to bench a Julian Strawther. I think that what they will do is go with Murray, Brown, Porter, Gordon, Jokic, go back to that initial starting 5. And I think that's just what they're going to have to do. It's the right thing to do. There's still ways to get Russell Westbrook as much playing time as he can with Nikola Jokic. I think that Michael Malone has been extremely creative with his rotations this season. It's actually been, I think, my biggest compliment to him for the way that he has handled this season and how he has gotten creative and saving those non-Jokic minutes a little bit. But he can do that. He can definitely still stagger Russ and Jokic together and play them together a whole bunch of minutes. And I think that's the right thing to do. But you have to keep Christian Brown in the starting lineup, Matt. He's been so good.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. There is an idea that Westbrook will return to the starting lineup because before he got hurt, Malone said Westbrook and Jokic is the best 2-man game. I do think that this is less about – the question is really largely about like an ego thing. Is Russ after being put into a starting unit and then winning,
I will say he earned it. Like, I think he earned it by kind of shifting he shifted the feeling of around this team and with how he played.
Yeah, but it's not like he took somebody else's job, right? Like it was somebody was hurt, so he played.
Yeah, Aaron was out.
Aaron was hurt, so he started. And the question is like, I just don't know if Russ cares. I don't. Typically, I would 2 years ago, yes, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Last year, I would have been like, yes. I just think that he's been so happy here and so grateful for the way that he gets to play here and the amount of attention that he draws. Like Westbrook only has to draw attention when he wants it here. Yeah. It's just not the same as it is in other markets. And I think he appreciates all that. And he's been very happy here. So I think he's in a better place to maybe be like, if that's what we need, that's what we need. It's fine. I'm ready to go if you need me. I do think that Christian's been really good. I do think that to me, largely this is just going to be, I just look at this entire thing as a matchup thing. I don't think for the playoffs is really what I care about. And I think if you had to be like, hey, we've got to go 1 big 4 wings, Aaron, I think he'd be okay with it. I think if you're playing a bigger team and you're like, Russ, we got to get as much size on the floor as possible, he'd be okay with it. I think the only players that would not be comfortable coming off the bench are Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. And with Mike, I think it's a matter of
Jokic would be fine with it.
He'll be fine with it. Yeah, Joker would be like, sure thing, no problem. Sounds good.
Like, are you sure? Like,
yeah, it'd be like, okay, you say so. But with MPJ, I think it's a confidence thing.
Yeah.
Like there's 2 things. There's ego and there's confidence. And with MPJ, I think it's the confidence thing. He'd be like, what did I do? Like what?
Shooters.
I worked. Well, not only that, but it's like, I worked so hard. I've tried so hard to play every game and to do the right thing and the sacrifice. And like, I'm having a career season. Like, what did I do?
And the funny thing is he now has the top 2-man game with Jokic based off of the plus minus and net rating stuff. So like you don't want to just remove that at this point.
Yeah. So he I think would have a harder time. And I think just with Jamal, you just can't bench a max player who you want a championship with. Like Jamal would take it super personally. And that's just the reality. And that's not a bad thing. I don't think that's a bad thing. You know,
yeah, I mean, he has earned the right to be like, hey, I won a championship with you guys and I raise my game every year in the playoffs. Yes. What are you doing?
Yeah. So I don't blame him. He's also like, he's in a much different spot from like the space, like Christian occupies a different space from Russ, and Russ occupies a different space from Aaron, and Aaron occupies a different space from both of them. But the 3 of them are all in very different parts of their careers.
100%.
Aaron honestly is just like, it's interesting because it's like, how old is Aaron?
He is now 30, I believe.
Like Aaron's, I mean, he's not over the hill. He's got several, like, I think he can play. You and I kind of disagree on this. I think with how we're seeing players extend their careers, I think he's got a lot of great seasons left in him.
He's actually 29. Like he doesn't turn 30 until September.
Well, there you go. 29. Yeah. And so like Aaron's in his prime. Aaron should be like, F that. But I just think that Aaron has been so much like, look, man, if it makes things easier, fine.
I also just kind of think, just watching him physically, he is still dealing with stuff. Like he still moves pretty slowly at times. And like some of it is I'm trying to save energy for sure. I know that he'll be able to ramp that up in the playoffs and go all out when he needs to. But like at some point, you've talked about this, it's just a heavy workload, and that wears people down over the course of a long period of time.
Who's getting cut from the rotation post All-Star?
I was just going to think this. So let's assume, obviously, if Russell Westbrook is coming off the bench, he's of course the 6th man.
Okay.
Is Julian Strawther or Peyton Watson your 7th man?
I feel like it's Julian.
I kind of do too. I have less confidence in Peyton now than I did at that starting stretch that he had in place of Aaron in November and December. And he showed out in that stretch.
Yeah.
He did really well. But there's just some things that he has to be able to show on the offensive end and still looks kind of lost at times. Go.
See, I don't feel like that. I don't feel like it's been. I feel like that there's a little bit of Peyton's not in the circle. Like, 'cause I've done this
Yeah.
where it's been player X is not in the circle of trust. Well, that's because of player X. And I will say, like, some of this is just I am willing to, not willing to. You have to. That's a better way. You have to grant Malone the authority to make those decisions based off of what he knows about their practice habits, their attention habits, his understanding of the game versus the Neanderthalic way I watch a game. Like you have to make those, you have to understand those things. But for me, it is, there's a feeling here. And my feeling is that Malone does not feel like he can try. And I'll say, I'm not sure how Joker feels about him either.
There's some of that. We also have like some strong thoughts on whether Julian's going to be able to survive defensively in the playoffs. And I think people on the staff have that belief as well.
So I asked Malone about that pregame the other day. You were there. And I asked him kind of about Julian. What does he need to do? And Malone kind of said, like, look, we understand where he's at, but he's been so good for us offensively. It's my job to find a way to play him. Now, Malone has fed me that before.
Yes.
And been like, I got to find a way to play him.
And then doesn't
narrator.
play.
Narrator. He did not. Like, that happens all the time.
Yeah.
But I am kind of the thought of that Malone. I don't know. I do feel like Julian's capable of giving them a spark. I think there's a spot for him in the playoffs. Maybe not definitely not every round. Definitely not every series. Definitely not every opponent.
Yeah.
But at some point, I think that if they get out of the first round, I think there's.
If I was to estimate minutes, I would go with Jokic at 40, Murray at 38 to 40, Aaron Gordon at 35, Michael Porter at 35, Christian Brown at 35. I would go Russell Westbrook at 25 in the 25 to 28 range. I would go with Julian Strawther and Peyton Watson in the 10 to 15 range, and then DeAndre Jordan as needed. That would be my expectation for the rotation, and I'm not sure what that adds up to ultimately, but to me it says they probably need to find another guy that they can go to between now and then, and whether that's Jalen Pickett, whether that's Zeke Naji, whether that's Vlatko Čančar if he comes back healthy, if it's somebody else on the buyout market that they just magically appear. I don't know who it is, but I don't know what the answer is otherwise.
Okay. Well, we will continue to talk about it here on the show. Up next, last year the Nuggets got off to an outrageously great start post All-Star break. When we return, I want to ask Ryan some thoughts about what we learned from that experience and how the Nuggets can avoid the trap they fell into last year. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Nuggets. Running a small business means you're wearing a lot of hats. Your personal phone becomes your business phone, and before you know it, you're juggling customer calls day and night. As your team grows, it becomes impossible to manage everything with just your personal number. That's where OpenPhone comes in. It's the #1 business phone system designed to help you keep your work and personal life separate. For just $15 a month, the cost of a few coffees, you get complete transparency and visibility into everything happening with your business phone number. OpenPhone works through an app on your phone or computer and integrates with tools like HubSpot and hundreds of others. It also uses AI-powered call transcripts and summaries, so you'll have a rundown of your calls and action items the second you hang up. And if you miss a call, no problem. Automated messages are sent directly to your customer, ensuring you never miss an opportunity to engage. Right now, OpenPhone is offering 20% off your first 6 months when you go to openphone.com/lockedonnba. That's OPENPHONE.com/lockedonnba for 20% off 6 months. Openphone.com/lockedonnba. And if you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. We'll be right back on Locked On Nuggets. Back here on Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. Final segment for you here on a Wednesday. No jinx, because Ryan and I would never, ever jinx the opponent for the Nuggets. By the way, we haven't talked about like the Portland game on Wednesday night because you just saw them play. I mean, it'll be a different game. They could lose. Like there's
probably will be.
Like there's all sorts of things that can happen. DeAndre Ayton, probably not going to play, by the way.
He is listed as out as well as Scoot Henderson, by the way.
Yeah, so we'll see how that one goes. But as Malone said, you expect a different team on Wednesday.
Yeah.
We'll have a post-game story for you tomorrow night. I will not be at Ball Arena, sadly, because my oldest has high school registration as I crumble into dust.
Yeah, you do. Oh man, you told me a funny story earlier about girlfriends as well. That's
oh boy, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do that in case there's because there are folks here where I live in northern Colorado that listen to the show in town, and so I'm like, can't do that. But
understandable.
It's been a amusing week in the Moore household with a 13-year-old. All right, so let's talk about the post All-Star break. So last year, the Nuggets went on this tear, and they absolutely they looked so great, and the vibes were immaculate, and it really looked like. And there was the text message right from Jokic. Hey,
yeah, that's right.
It's really funny looking back on it. Like, go time. It's time for us to get going. Like, and everybody was so hyped, like leadership, and it was just like everything was perfect.
Yeah,
and they got off to this great start, and they were playing awesome. They were just absolutely terrific after the All-Star break. And I started making noise round about, let's see, they surged out of the All-Star break. They won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row, lost to Phoenix, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again. And I started making noise around when they had won 7 of 8. They were facing Utah. They had just beaten Boston. And that's when I started to be like, they need to slow down, coast a little bit, do a little bit of what they did in March last year.
Yeah.
Chill out. I want to be very transparent. Most of us freaked out a little bit about how badly they played the championship season in March. They were so bad.
Not me.
One
I feel good about.
They were so bad that I was like, man, I don't know.
Yeah.
They go ahead and they come back versus Utah. Or they dominate Utah. The Toronto one was the one. They were down 20, surged back, and won it. That was like the one where they just needed to drop it.
Right.
And because you could tell they were like, you could tell being in the locker room that they were getting tired.
They were flagging. Yeah.
But they were pushing so hard to keep and teams do this. This is why there's a real cost when you go on these long 10, 15 game win streaks, because by the end of it, you're not playing good basketball. You're just trying to find a way to get that win.
Yes.
And it's more effort than it is process. The process is what got you the win streak in the beginning, but you're going to have off nights. You're going to not shoot as well. But if you're just like so hungry, keep the winning streak going. It feels so good. It's all this endorphin. And then they keep winning. They beat Miami and San Antonio. They lose to Dallas. They beat the Wolves again at home. That was a huge one. That was the one that clinched tiebreaker.
Yes.
They beat the Knicks. They beat Memphis again.
Actually, no, that one was not the one that clinched tiebreaker. That was game 80 of the season. Third final. Third last game of the year.
But so and you could tell that they were just starting to be a little bit wonky.
Yeah, rickety. Yeah.
Rickety. And it all felt fine. They still were winning games, winning more than they were losing. They had a 2-game losing streak versus at home versus Phoenix and Minnesota. And that was weird. But then they beat the Cavs, who were shorthanded, and it was fine. They beat San Antonio. By the way, people forget that they beat them on April 2nd. And all of it leads up to they take care of the Wolves to clinch tiebreaker. And again, that entire last week, I'm screaming bloody murder. You got to back off here. You're pushing too hard.
You were.
And then they lose the Spurs game. And that Spurs game really is that's a moment, because the players were pushing so hard to try and win that game, to try and get the 1 seed. And there's an idea that Malone was the one that was pushing them forward. My understanding is not that. Malone wanted to play normal rotations, and the veterans were like, what are you doing? We're winning this game.
100%.
And they didn't. And then they beat Memphis, and they go ahead and they finish with the 2 seed anyway.
But like that's the thing about it was they were competing in this seeding race that they hadn't been competing in the previous year, and I think it egged them on to the point where they're looking at two young teams in their division, Minnesota and Oklahoma City, and they're like, we got to show them that we're still the top. We're still the top dog. Like we're still the team that I think that should be the team to beat in that situation.
I think it's more healthy respect. I do. I think it's more like, hey, we're within range of getting home court. Let's get it. Like we can do this. Like it's just a few more games. We can get it.
I mean, of course, there's the logistics and kind of the strategy part of it, but I think there's a psychological part of it too. Especially with young teams where they have to come into your building and then you get to set the tone. And they remember the setting of the tone in like the championship year where they won every single one of those opening games, and it just put them off to such a great start in each of those series. So pivoting to this year, they're in a race as the 3 seed right now. The 1 is dead. That's not going to happen. OKC has run away with that so far that it's not even feasible to kind of even think about that. But the 2 seed is within reach. And if you get the 2 seed, you guarantee that you are going to you're going to face a team that is a play-in caliber team, as opposed to a team that's in the 6 seed that has gotten themselves out of that. And you'll figure out like who you're going to face relatively early in that play-in tournament. So you'll get like 4 days of preparation as opposed to the 2 when you are the 1 seed, which is fascinating. I think that Denver, and you're right about this, I think they learned from last year. I think they know how tired they were. Whether they can help themselves this time or not remains to be seen. But I do think that once it gets around to March 15th, March 20th, you're at game 70 to 75 of the season. I do think that they're going to reel it back. I do.
I don't. I think they're trapped in the same seedings battle. Lakers are tied in the loss column. And I don't know how good the Lakers are going to be. I'm just like, Jackson Hayes, really? Really? Austin Reeves is your 3rd best defender? Really?
The thing about the Lakers, though, is like they've got so much forward size. It kind of makes up for it.
Well, and they have so much offense. Their offense is elite.
Sure.
Like they weren't good defensively with Anthony Davis. They just weren't.
Yeah.
Houston's fallen off. I think Houston continues to fall off. I actually kind of think the Lakers fall off. I actually think that Denver just needs to maintain the 3.
I agree.
Like, don't push for the 2.
Minnesota's the 6.
You just got to live. I think some of this, again, you just got to live with it.
All right.
You cannot be terrified of a team that you had a 20-point lead on in game 7.
I'm not terrified. Like, Matt, that's not what I'm thinking about with this. I think you do everything you can to maximize your title odds. Everything you can.
Look, usually I'm in your mindset, right? And I understand it's like, look, they're just a bad matchup. It's different after you're the champions. It is.
Yeah.
Like you're just there. You're different. And a lot of this is also that I think that there's a gear that they can get to that I think you're more skeptical that they can get to. And we'll find out. Like, that's okay.
That'll be a good convo to have.
Yeah, we'll find out if they can have it. All right, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Nuggets. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate you guys being with us. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Join the 8,975 people, 76, that have subscribed to the channel. Make sure to give us those 5-star reviews. Sign up at LockedOnDaily.com for the Locked On Nuggets newsletter. Make sure to check out Ryan on Pickaxe and Roll. And we'll be back tomorrow night for post-game show after the last game before the All-Star break here on Locked On Nuggets.